Hello, good evening, and welcome to In Studio Live, the 97th edition. And I can just see people starting to arrive in the live chat. I've said hello to Terry and Gary already, at least I think I have. I've just seen Bob and Peter arrive, so hi folks. If you are watching this and have access to the live chat, please say hello and there I know you're watching, because it's always encouraging. I never quite believe the stats on YouTube. They never quite tie up, because at the moment one display is telling me I've got 6 people watching and another one tells me I've got 3, and I've got 4 people in the chat. So I don't know. Anyway, let's move on and let's have a look what we've got on the show tonight. And on the show tonight, we have website feedback. That's what we're going to be looking at, or very specifically, feedback on photographers' websites. And I've got 3 different websites for you to have, well, for me to have a look at. And if you want to have a look at them yourself as I'm going through them, I've just put the links in the description below. If they're not there immediately, just hit refresh and they should appear. Because if you were on here before I finished typing them in there, then you might not see them. So you can follow along. I was going to do another Affinity photo tutorial all about masking, and I've prepared it and I came to the studio to record it this afternoon. And first thing that happened was OBS, the software I use for live streaming and for capturing screens and doing pre-recorded stuff, that crashed on me. Partly my own fault. I installed a new plugin on it and it clearly didn't like the new plugin, so I had to take that out. I then got partway through recording the tutorial and Affinity crashed on me. So I started again and got partway through, and this time Affinity started behaving differently to how it should do with some of the selections. At this point I thought I'm not going to have time to redo the recording again and do the little bit of editing that's needed on it, so I'm afraid I've scrapped that. So if you come expecting an Affinity tutorial tonight, sorry, I will get it recorded this week. I'll broadcast it next week and then it will appear on the channel I think the week after. I've got the remaining 2 from last week's are going to be standalone videos on the channel this coming week. I've started releasing them. And just for your record, the ones that are now standalone, I have done additional editing to them, trying to cut out a few of the ums and ers and little delays in there, added in some extra captions so that when I'm using keyboard shortcuts you can see what they are, that sort of thing. So much slicker than the versions you saw last week. Anyway, that's not on the show tonight. Image feedback is both the ones which are emailed in and the Facebook ones, and as ever I'll be revealing the image of the week. So let's well, I was going to say let's get started, but first to say it is interactive. We've got 6 or 5 of you online. If you've got any questions, please pop them into the chat, and any conversation going on there, please converse on that. Oh yes, right, okay. I've forgotten the order of my own slides. Sorry. A few thoughts about websites before I start looking at them. And the sort of things that we need to just keep in mind. First thing to say is don't take my website as a good example as to what your photography websites should look like. There are a number of reasons for this, one of which is I know I'm not very good at dealing with my own situation in terms of websites. I have to hit a lot of different things because I've got commercial work, I've got theatre work, I've got my main area, which is the training work. I've got portraiture and weddings and all sorts of things. So I've got way too many bases, as it were. So mine can be a little bit confusing. I think hopefully you'll understand as I go through this what I've tried to do. I've tried to separate things out, but don't take mine as an example because my situation is very, very different on there. And I'm the first to say I need to do a lot more work on the website, and I am planning to do some work on it because I've got an announcement coming in, what are we on, edition 97, 3 weeks' time, because I'm going to do a big announcement to coincide with the 100th live stream about a few things which are happening. But I want to save it all till then, and some of the things to do with the website are connected with that. And the most obvious thing that I do need to do with the website at some point, it's not going to happen in 3 weeks' time, is to separate all the teaching aspects from the studio and commercial aspects on there. But maybe I can talk about that on another occasion. But as I say, don't use mine as the example of how a photographer's website should be on it. What you should keep in mind is a number of key questions with any website that you look at, and specifically your own websites. And that is, first of all, who's the website actually aimed at? And this is where I have a problem with mine, because I'm aiming at lots of different markets, because, well, that's just how my business has gone. So the question is, when you look at the website, who's the target audience? And not only that, but, well, what response do you want that target audience to have to your website? Do you want them to be able to contact you? Do you want them to just sit there and look at it and enjoy it? Do you want them to be able to download your images? And once you know what that response is, the next question to ask is all the information necessary for them to make that response available on the website? I've just seen Ivan appear in the live chat. So hi, welcome. Welcome. Then you can move on to sort of ask other questions about the website. And the ones that, basically three I'm going to look at, is the visual appeal of it. Photography is a very visual art. So if we've got boring websites, then what does that say about us as visual creators? So it needs to be visually appealing. It also actually needs to work. Things like, do the forms work? One of the things I didn't do with the websites, but I very, very nearly did, was just to use the contact system that is labelled on the website and send a test message to each of the people whose things. I didn't get down to doing it, just to check that it works. Things like that. Have you checked that all your contact forms work on there? And next, is it actually easy to navigate? Or does it lead you down some blind alleys? That can happen. It used to happen a lot with some of my websites, I'll be the first to admit. Then the next thing that's part of your website is your online portfolio. So things to think about with that is what I've called the Goldilocks principle. Not too many images, not too few. Have you got this good representation of your work? And are the images you've got on there consistent with the theme of your website? If you've got a website which is all about, I don't know, selling you as an architectural photographer, and then your galleries, half the images are of models, that's not really consistent with what you want on there. So have you got that consistency? Do the images work to back up what the aim of your website is? And with portfolios, one thing to bear in mind, you will always be judged on the worst image in your portfolio. So be very selective what you put in there. I'll probably end up saying more about that when we get to the website. One thing to say about these 3 websites, I have had a look at them, but not necessarily in huge detail. I've got 1 or 2 things in my mind that I think I need to mention about them, but the majority of it I'm going to try and do from the perspective of somebody just coming to these websites without the preconceived ideas and things like that. One of the problems when you're creating a website is you get so close to it, it's very difficult to see it as somebody else sees it. And that's hopefully what I'm going to provide tonight as I look through them. But before we get to those websites, let's have a look at some of your images and let me give you some feedback on those. I say this every week, but I'll mention it again. If you want me to give more detailed feedback, please email copies of the images, preferably with your shooting data, to feedback@ians-studio.co.uk. Anything that's emailed there gets bumped up the priority list. I deal with those first at the beginning of the live stream. The Facebook ones, which are also important, I do towards the end of the live stream. So please email things through to me. I generally say the cut-off is sometime on the Sunday morning, to be honest. I may do preparation earlier than that, but Sunday afternoons I tend to go through and pull through anything else that I haven't downloaded on there. So let me head over to Lightroom and have a look at your images. Oh, numbers are improving. It's either 11 or 10 watching at the moment. Right, okay, let's go over to the emailed images. Right, and let's start off with this one from David Lee Jones. This is an example, one of his portrait images, shot on his Panasonic. It's been edited in Luminar, and nice headshot. Now, I did give some feedback on this on Facebook, because he'd also posted it there. The first thing to say is I really like the brown tones. I'm a big fan of shooting. If somebody turns up wearing brown, you shoot them on a brown background. If somebody turns up wearing white, you shoot them on a white background, that sort of thing. So he's kept that, and that works nicely with the subject's hair. The light brown colour on there, nice catch lights, and yeah, pretty sharp on that. Actually, it's pretty sharp, but there's a little bit of softness to it, David. I'm not quite sure what's gone on there. It just feels almost as though it hasn't had the sharpening done to it. So let me just go into the develop, and yeah, there's something a little bit odd with that, because you see in the hair it looks a little bit soft. I'm going to see whether I can pull that back with just a little bit of sharpening. Now, with all sharpening, hold down the Alt key as you move the sliders. So start off by moving the amount up and the radius up, and already that's helped a little bit on there. And then we play with the detail, bring in maybe a little bit more detail, and then finally the masking. And I just want to find those edges so that I'm not sharpening the skin, or trying not to, on there. So I'll just bring that detail slider back, because it's picking up a bit too much skin for my liking, and the radius back a little bit. So that's helped a bit. No, can't see much of a difference on that, actually. Bring the masking back a little bit. Yeah, I might be. This is interesting. Yeah, right. Okay, I can see what's happened now. I'm just going to turn off my little bit of sharpening in there. This is as supplied by David. Now, it's a focusing issue. You're shooting with an f1.7 lens here, which is an incredibly shallow depth of field. Thank you, Windows Security, for interrupting my live stream with a message to say I haven't got any viruses. Go away. Right. But look, the sharpness of the eyes compared with the sharpness of the lips. So your lens is slightly forward focusing. The nose is sharp, the lips are sharp, the eyes aren't. So just watch that on there and make sure you're focusing on the eyes with it. Look at the image on the back of the camera, check your focus point. We'll see where that's been picked up on there. But it's a good image. It's nicely lit. Really like the lighting on it. Little thing about composition. I just watched that hair right up against the edge there. It just feels as though it needs just a little bit more space to breathe on that image. So moving on. Paul, this is an interesting one. I like the light on this, the sort of tunnel effect. And I can see what you're trying to do by putting the figure on the edge there. But this really feels as though a bit of the image that's needed has been chopped off here. I'd like to see the other half of the tunnel with it. Now, I'm suspecting you've cropped it because there was something in there that you knew. You thought, if I send that to Ian, he's going to complain about that. I'll just crop it out. So I don't know what it is that's in there. Let's have a look at your shooting data on this. With it, shot with a nifty 50, f1.8. How sharp are we? Right, okay, here's the other thing. With something like this, what's the subject of the image? The subject of the image is the person walking down here. So that's the thing I would expect to see in focus. But your focus is latched onto the background rather than the person. So I would prefer to see the person in sharp focus and then let the background just disappear off into the blur on there. Again, you're another one shooting with a very shallow depth of field here. And for me, the rule of thumb on where you focus is where you want the viewer's eye to go. That's the thing you should be focusing on. So in this case, you want the viewer's eye to go to the person walking down there, so they should be the sharp item. I like the colours on it. I think it could probably just do with a little brightening up on there, maybe a bit of contrast to it, so this becomes a bit more of a silhouette. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. So moving on. All right, we've got a whole series of images here from Bob, I believe, which is the London to Brighton Veteran Car Rally. Now, I'm just going to go here, make sure I've got the images in the order I want. Yeah. Yes, they are. Right, okay. I'm going to show you the edited version first. That was the one that that was done in post-production. Nice image. Now, what's really interesting on this is what it looked like before. Yeah, I'm going to go full screen on this because I want you to see the details on this, folks. Because before it was edited, that's what it looked like. So going between the two. So what's happened here? Well, it's a nice crop, and by going between the two, it really shows up where the actual edit's taken place. You filled in here to hide the truck. No, wrong one, that one. The truck and the car in the background. And it's not a bad job actually, but I'm not quite sure which way you've done it, whether you've done it in Lightroom or in Photoshop. Let's see if this gives me any clues on here. No, it doesn't. Sometimes it shows up what the editing software was, but it hasn't got that. The brush you were using to clone and copy this in needs a slightly softer edge, I think, to it, because we've got some harsh edges, particularly around this section at the top on there. Now, having said all that, I didn't notice it at first. At screen resolution, I didn't notice it. But it's one of those things that once you have seen it, it's very difficult to unsee it. Particularly if you come in like that. You can see that edge there. What can we do with it? Well, in develop mode, I can, even in here, I can try and fill a little bit of that in. So if I go Q, large brush. Now I'm just going to make the feather big so that it blurs it. And I'm just going to paint that bit. And it's picked it up from down there, which doesn't matter because I can now bring that from up here. And you see it's just that little bit softer on the transitions, maybe a little bit too much, but that kind of hides it a bit more. And I'd need to do a bit more round here, but that kind of thing, that softness to the brush would help you on that. Moving on to the next one, same sort of thing. That's the unedited and the edited version. Again, not bad at all with the edit there, but if I zoom in, we can see this harsh edge around here. Again, I'm just going to try here to reduce that. So if I just take that down a little bit and just paint, I'm going to just try painting that whole section. I'm probably, oh yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Right, so now let's see where we can try and take that info from. I just bring it from further along here. I've got the top of the car. What I'm actually trying to do, I don't know if you can see it, I'm just trying to line up a little bit along there. So now come out of that, and that looks a bit more natural. Effectively that line across there looks like an opening now with no harsh edge to it. Other than that, that is not a bad edit actually on there, and you've brought it up a little bit lighter. Now, just looking, we've got some clipped highlights. We've got clipped highlights on the face there. If I just go back here, that wasn't clipped on the face in the original. So I'm just going to do a very quick edit to show you. I can hide there. I'm just going to bring in a touch on there. That's going to be it. Now, if I bring the exposure up just a little bit. Now, you can see I've got those, well, I haven't actually got the clipped highlights. Let's go right up so I have. Now, Lightroom's doing a very good job at protecting my highlights on this. But if I had got them, the answer is the highlights slider, just to bring that bit down again, just to protect it on there. So it's one way you can bring everything up on the exposure and then bring the highlights down just to protect the bits that exposure slider has taken into being blown out. So we've got that. Right, moving along. Again, that's the original that's the edited version. And have we got an edit on here? That's looking pretty good over on that side. I would be tempted over this side, that yellow sign kind of bugging me. I would tend to move that out just a little bit on there. And comparing it with, yeah, it's just a straight crop, isn't it, on that one, I think. Yeah, right onto the edge of the car. So you've basically cropped it there, I think. Yeah. No, you've got more. So yeah, I'll give you the edit on that one. That's a good one. Nice one. Again, that's not the original and the edited version. Yeah, again, you've taken the yellow sign out on there, which is good. So that's looking fine. This one, not a bad job at taking the vehicles out in the background. Not bad at all. Just a couple of things to watch with it is this line here is not quite straight. You see how it juts down a little bit here with it. So just watch that when you're cloning through. And also, it looks like your trees have fallen over because the branches are now going sideways on here. So I can see what you've done. You've lifted it from over here and turned it round, I think, on there. Edges a little bit harsh on it. Again, if it was done with a softer brush, that would work better. But it's not a bad edit. And to be honest, until I got the raw files, I hadn't noticed it. That bit there might have given it away a little bit on there that wasn't quite in line, but not a bad attempt on there. So well done with that. Right, David, another one of yours. Now, there was a bit of discussion about this one online. I think we've covered most of the points on there. I'd like to see this straight on rather than at an angle. I also would like to see the legs the other way around. Now, I know one other bit of feedback said no, you've got it the right way. I am still not convinced on that one. I still think it would look better the other way around on the legs, because the argument about seeing the inside of the shoe, regardless of which way the legs are round, you're still going to see the same amount of shoe on there. So I would switch it. It does appear to have a bit of a tilt to it, so I'm going to go into develop, and I don't like the colour tone on there, so I'm going to just correct that very slightly back to what I think is a more natural, and I am going to just transform this. You'll probably hate what I'm doing to this, but I just want to get that straight and that straight, and then I'm just going to try something. This may fail horribly, but what if I did straighten that up? Now, it has distorted the legs quite a bit on there, but just to give you a feel for what a straight-on version would look like, you'd end up with something like that. Now, legs are distorted in every sense here, both your model's legs and the legs on the radio, but that just sort of gives a feel for what's gone on there. I mentioned also I like the idea of a coloured background rather than white. For me, and again, it's personal preference on this. If I was going with that, I might try to make it a proper white, which is difficult to do like that. What I can do with it, now we have our masking tool. If I say select subject, very interesting. Has it got? It's got the subject and not the whole gram on there. This is one of the problems with select subject. It doesn't necessarily always get it right. So I'm going to bring that out. How am I going to do it? I'm going to delete that, I think. Delete mask 1. What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to do a brush on here. So K will create me a brush mask, and I am going to take exposure all the way up, highlights all the way up, and I've just realized something that's gone missing on here. We used to have, oh no, there it is, auto mask on there. And now with that, I can effectively, right on the flow up, I can effectively paint a white background on here. And I quite like the clean up. Okay, I've messed up a little bit with the legs on there. Hold Alt key down and just bring those legs back on there. This is a quick and dirty edit on here just to try and show you the alternatives. So personally, I'd prefer something looking a little bit more like that. But it's all down to personal preferences, and that's not a good selection. I've messed it up with the radio as well, but I just wanted to show some alternatives on that. So, oh, K to come out doesn't work anymore. I've got to get my head around some of the new features of this. Right, Gary, one of yours. Well, actually, that's my version of it. That's yours. I like the idea of this, the montage of the books. Now, one of the things you said was that having done a version of this without the whole book, it felt as though there was no context to these. I'm not sure about the dark area around the book. So what I did was I cropped that section in. I think that still gives the context that you're looking for. It's clearly a book, but you haven't got the dark area, so the tones are now consistent throughout. I've also lightened it up a little bit compared to yours. Oops, wrong way. So you see that I think it just needs that little bit lighter on there. So those are the sort of changes I would make with those images, that brightening up thing. But it's a really nice idea, this sort of montage on a theme, and I think you've done it well on there, Gary. And is that it? Yes, that's it for the emailed images this week. So back over to where we were, and Bob was saying he did his editing in Affinity. Good on you, Bob. Right, okay. Right, and the other one, let me put the chat up on the screen. Cropped it out of a blown sky to the left of the picture. Right, okay, the blown out skies on there, Paul. I don't know what tool you're using. Are you using Affinity or Photoshop or something else? Because if you've got sky replacement available, that might be the time just to put in a different sky on there. Try and, if you are doing sky replacements, try and make sure that the sky is sympathetic. Try and avoid the really dramatic skies unless the rest of the image is really dramatic. Because if you've got this wonderful sunset and the rest of the image is a dull day, it will just really won't work on it. But that's a couple of thoughts for you on there. Okay, so moving on. Right, okay, Affinity. I'll get to Affinity on doing some of those sorts of things with my tutorials over the coming weeks and months on it. So let's have a look at our first website review on this, and this one is Sonia Oom's website, and it's called Colours of the Deep. Now, let me go over, here we go, and if I just go, yep, there, you've got it over my shoulder, so you should be able to see that as I go through. Excuse me. Right, so first impressions. I like the little bit of video as we come in. That just seems to work nicely with it, and it's on a nice loop. The cut back each time on it at the end of the loop isn't too obvious on there, so that's been well done. So the first thing of my key questions, my first key question is, who's it aimed at? And that should be obvious right at the start of looking at a website. And we sort of go through and look at this and look at what Sonia has to say. She's talking about passion for travelling and diving, underwater photography, etc. So as we look through about paying attention to small items, check out what I've photographed on this website, and to get an idea of how I look at the world through my lens, check out what I've done and where I've been on my travel blog. Oh, okay, so we have a button here, so let's go to that then. That's the first thing. And right, okay, so that's the blog, but that's taken me to Peter's site, who I presume is your husband, on there, and scrolling through. Right, well, we've got one that's to do with diving. It's Belgium back in... Right, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, so I'll click on that. Oh, it does take me there. I don't know what I clicked on before. Okay, cookie policy, yeah, I'm okay with it. So it's a blog. Right, okay, let me be honest on this. I do know what's going on here because I have actually gone through this before, but this is what happened when I first looked at it. I started looking down at the wording, and the first thing I saw on here was a link. So I assumed that's where I needed to go to see your photos, and it took me off-site. Now, I know you say that's your travel blog, but the thing that you want people to see on your website should be the most obvious thing there for somebody approaching it, because we're not going to go through a lot of information. So that's the most obvious place. So if you want your galleries to be the thing that people look at first, that's the position where they should be. They're actually down. So you might even scroll down. Oh, right, okay, it was not there. I'll click on this one, and this is all different things. Again, it's not the wonders of the sea that we're expecting, so we're not getting to those right at the start, and that's sending a bit of a mixed message about, well, who's it aimed at? Is it aimed at travellers or people looking at the sea? Because all the links I'm getting right at the start, from when I go through this, the main things aren't to do with underwater photography. And then we've got an about me. Okay, yeah, it's important. Oh, right, now I get to see your underwater photography. I've had to scroll all this way down to get to the most important thing. So what we're getting here is a bit of a mixed message at the beginning. It's right, well, who is it aimed for? Well, the title of it, Colours of the Deep, the graphic at the top is implying that it's all to do with underwater photography. But the text I'm seeing, until I scroll all this way down, there's nothing to do with that. So there's a chance that I'm going to go off in different directions. Now, to be fair with you, yes, you've got a menu at the top here, which says wet gallery, dry gallery. I love that way of dealing with it, but it's not a sticky menu. You should be able to find a way to make that sticky. On my own website, if you have a look at that, I had intended to do this, open it up, in studio / photographers, which is my photographers page within there. I say don't always use this as a good idea. I've got a banner, I've got my menu there, but as I scroll down, see what happens, that's sticky at the top. And that's something I would just encourage for your website if you can find a way to do that. So, okay, who's it aimed at? Well, I'm going to say it is aimed at people interested in underwater photography. But it's got this sort of multiple vibe to it. Is it about travel? Is it about that? My suggestion would be make this very much focused on your underwater photography, and maybe have a separate one all about your travel photography, and have links in there, something that right at the top of this one, all about your underwater photography, links straight into your underwater photography galleries, and then maybe underneath that a little thing saying, yeah, if you like that, you want to know about my travel photography, go over to this section or this site. So it's the first page should be about your main theme, and it should be very clear what that is. Whereas you start off all about travel, and we have to go quite a long way to get to what I take to be the theme of the site. Okay, so we've got that. Looking down my list of other things. Well, okay, so you've got somebody in here. What sort of response do you want from them? Well, from looking at the words on there, I think you just want people to like your photos and to view your photos. So let's go and have a look at some of these photos. Let's have a look at the wet gallery. So I click on that, and I've got a whole load of photos on the wet gallery. And yes, I've got a title on there. Which doesn't really mean much to me on that. I mean, some of them aren't entitled. They're called some file name edit. So this is your key gallery. This is the thing that people will click on first, your wet gallery, and it just takes you to a number of images, many of which aren't even titled. So that's a bit of a downer, really. What I would like to see when I click on wet gallery is actually a page which then gives me the options to go into all of these. Because if I pick one, I'm going to pick fish because I like fish. This is great. We've got a little bit of an explanation here. One thing I would say about your text, I'm dyslexic, and large blocks of text like that are quite difficult for me to read on the screen. If that was broken up into 3 paragraphs, that would be much, much easier for me to go through and to be able to scan it and read it. So I would find the point maybe a third of the way through, 2/3 of the way through, just to break that into paragraphs. So let's have a look. And this is how I love seeing things presented. This is presented really well. You've got the photo, you've got the write-up about it, where it was photographed. This is the sort of the way things should be presented, not just as that first gallery appears. That's your prime gallery. That's what people are going to see first, but try and go for that sort of layout on there. So I love this. I've gone in, I've had a look at a few of these, and I've stepped through with it, and enjoyed looking at them and the writing on there. And there's quite a lot. Now, I would say you've probably got slightly more than you need on this gallery on the website. What's the magic number? I don't really know, but how many have you got? You've got 2, 3, 6, 9, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. You've got 33 images there. I would say you probably want to limit that to 15. Your 15 best on there. Now, if you can't do that, maybe do one of fish of the Far East and one of fish of the Middle East. And you can divide it like that rather than having quite so many on the gallery like that. So just to break it up. But if I'm somebody who likes fish, the next thing I would do I'd see the link here, more fish. And what do I get? I get a Canadian goose and a woodpecker. And, oh, there are some fish in here. Again, oh, we're now into travel. Right, you see, this is that confusing message. It's not taking me to what your label promised. Your label promised more fish. It's actually taking you to Flickr. So it's an easy fix on this one. The easy fix is to change the label and have that just say my Flickr galleries on there, or remove it altogether, because again it's that mixed message that's coming through with it. Right, going down through my list of things here. What's new? Okay, what's new? Latest update. Click on the photo to go to the gallery where the original can be found. Right, let's have a look. So these mainly look like fish. Oh, that's not a fish. I'll click on that. And that's taken me to the crustaceans. Again, nicely laid out. Possibly a few too many on there with it. The about page. Right, okay. If this is all about your sea images, then these little images in here should be sea creatures, because that's Baalbek in Lebanon. That's not a sea fish. That's creatures of the deep. So again, make it like that. I'd put a blank line between these paragraphs. Again, just makes it easier for somebody like myself who's dyslexic to read on there. But keep your message consistent with it on there. The visual appeal of the whole site is good. I love the nice choice of fonts. The white background I think works fine on there. Right, one thing just to be aware of. Yes, you've got your thing here about, oh, they may not be downloaded, transferred, recreated, etc., etc. On here. But let's just have a look at your street art gallery. All these images, and I have to scroll right down to the bottom to get that warning. And someone might argue, particularly with so many images on there, that oh, I didn't see any warning about that I can't use them and download them. So I would say put that between the introductory text and the images, so that no one's got an excuse for not seeing that warning about the images on there. So just that, I know it's stuck in the footer because that means you don't have to put it on every page, and probably just keep it in the footer anyway, but I would also put it up there because with your images you haven't got that warning anywhere else. I have it on as a watermark on my images, so just think about that. Generally it works well, but it's got a little bit of a confusing message to it. So I know you're not watching live, Sonia, and you'll be seeing this on the replay. I hope that sort of helped, and I've just pulled out a few things. Right, okay, the one other thing just to say, email address on the top there. I don't know whether that is a live email address or not, but one thing I would recommend is that any email address you publish on a website should be a holding email address. For example, how many times have I said on the live stream, send your photos to feedback@ians-studio.co.uk, or if you want to contact me, send me a message at contact@ians-studio.co.uk. Those are disposable email addresses for me. If I start getting too much spam on those, I can just get rid of them. They are not my main email address. They forward to my main email address, so I can just dispose of them. I hope that's what you've done here with this, that it's not your main email address, because you will attract spam doing that on there. So just create a disposable one, particularly one that if you can forward. I don't know who's doing your hosting for you, but if they can stick a forwarder in, so don't use mail at as a or contact at and the domain name. Those will just be got by the bots as well. They just take the name of the domain and add email at or contact at to try and spam them. So that's why mine is contact me, because it's not the standard thing on there. So just be aware of that one as a warning. Your contact form, again, you've got it on there and as a form. I honestly don't think you need both. I think most people would prefer an email address, but I can see why some people prefer to use a form on there. I tend to just go with an email address rather than a form, largely because I hate filling in forms on websites because they tend to crash. And so the question I would have is, why do you want people's address if they want to contact you? What's the point of that? Why do you need their phone number in there? Do you really need those on a contact form? I think initially you probably just need name, email address, and a message. Simple as that. Possibly a subject on there with it. So, because if people think they need to talk to you by phone or to write to you, they'll ask for the address. Or if you need to contact them, you can email them and ask them for that information rather than expecting them to provide it up front on there. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that for that one, and time is really against me tonight. I'm glad I haven't got the other one, the tutorial to go in. Let's move on. Just to say, sponsorship this week by yourselves, and I just want to have a look what's going on in comments. Yeah, Peter saying the photos are amazing. Yes, they are. Sonia is an amazing photographer, which is why I want to push her website to be to the next level on that. Yeah, thank you for sponsoring the live stream, folks. This week, my cup of tea has been purchased by Ed Miron. So don't know whether you're watching, but cheers, Ed. Thanks very much. On that, if you do find, if generally anyone watching this, if you find it helpful, then do consider Buy Me a Cup of Tea through the link that's on the screen. It's also down below, because that helps keep the live stream going. Also, subscribing, liking and sharing does as well. So thank you for doing that. And how many likes have we got tonight? 6. We had 6 to start with. Come on, the rest of you, hit the like button. Don't forget to join the Facebook group and sign up for the newsletter. Again, links down below on there. Let's move on, this time to David Lee. He goes under various names, either David Lee Jones or David Lee or David Jones, all the same person. So his website is headshotphoto.co.uk. Let's go over there and have a look at that. So nice, clean, open website to start. And the odd thing on this one is, for a photographer's website, there's no photos as I arrive at the page. Yes, there is one below the fold, as it were, but what I would suggest is you make that smaller and have it on one side with the text down the side on there, because it just feels a bit odd coming to a photographer's website and there actually not being any photos right at the start. Now, the first thing when I approached this website, I saw the plus there and tried to click on it, and it didn't do anything, despite the fact that directly below it is obviously something clickable, but it's just taking me back to the same page. So it's just a little bit confusing, that plus sign on there. Okay, so those key questions. Who's it aimed at? Home of Northwest Actors Headshots. So presumably aimed at actors on there. So what sort of response do you want? Now, again, notice here that menu. If you can find it, I'm just finding that plus sign's moving. There's something weird on there. I think that's a menu issue with that. If you can find a way to get that menu sticky so that as I scroll down it stays at the top, that would be a good thing to do with it on there. But you've got the information about who you are on it. And right, so we've got portfolio, so that will be examples of your images. How to contact you, so let's have a look at the contact page. For a quick chat, name, email, subject, and message. That's all the information we need for a message on there. And the address, great that you've got a link to Google Maps on there. I assume it works. Yep. That's interesting. You've chosen to go into Street View rather than the map view for it. With it, I'd have probably gone to, personally, I'd have probably gone to the map, but oh yeah, okay, that's a little bit confusing once I come out of there to see where that is. But fortunately, I'll close that window. Fortunately, what you have done is you've got the what 3 words on there, which is great, but what you need to do, if I go over to mine, my Contact Me page, let me just show you this, not the contact, it's mine's actually on the Find Me page, directions. One of the things I've done is I've put it as a link on the what 3 words. So if I click on that, it goes straight to the map showing where I am on there. So just a thought on that, make it clickable with it. It's clearly a WordPress site that you're using because you've not changed the little icon on there. with it. You can see how Sonia has on that one and how I have, and that's your favICO setting on there. Information, let's have a look at information. So before the shoot, discuss the type of look and feel that you're after. Yeah, fair enough. Advice on there, colours, textures. Yeah, I'd expect you to do that. What would be helpful to an actor on here is sort of a little bit of information about what they should be looking for in an actor's headshot, because not all actors actually know what's actually needed. So I'm going to assume you've done your research and that you've been to places like Spotlight or Equity or some of the casting agencies and had a look what their requirements are for headshots. For example, Spotlight, which is probably the leading directory for actors, what they're looking for is a selection of probably about half a dozen images. They're not interested in fancy costumes or they're looking for some neutral expressions. They're looking for perhaps some smiley ones as well, but they are looking very much for images which are true representations. They're not wanting images to be photoshopped. And it's probably worth having that sort of information on your website to set the expectations of your clients. And if you put that sort of information on there, that tells your clients you know what you're talking about as a headshots actor, a headshots photographer for actors with it. So then you've got the on the day, talking about music, makeup and hair. What you haven't got on here is details of your packages. Now, there is an argument that I'd like to think it's a bit of a myth. Some people said you should never put your prices on your website because then people have to contact you, and that's your in. There is a certain amount of truth on that. However, I don't know about other people, but for me, if I go to a website that doesn't list prices, I'll move on and go to a website that does. There's an old adage which says if you have to ask the price, you probably can't afford it. So I would encourage you to get your packages on there and get the prices on there as well, so that people know what they're going to get and what they're expected to pay. So that I would expect in there. Okay, so again, no photos on this page. No photos on there. You contact one, would be good to have at least a photo of yourself on there. So this is me, so that they know who they're working with on it. So right, let's have a look at the portfolio. I can't click on the top one, so let's go to male headshots, and we have got, right, we've got 4 very similar shots actually of the same actor, and we've got one here. Now, you've got these captioned by some of them by David Lee Headshots, and some of them not. So as someone fairly in the position of somebody who doesn't know much about what's going on, doesn't know you, they'll go, oh right, so he shot some of these, so who shot this one? Whereas if you haven't got the name on there, we would rightly assume that you'd shot everything, which is actually correct, I know, with it. Now, the other thing, the Goldilocks principle with here, you've got a reasonable number, so it's 3, 6, 9, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 33. You've got 33 images on there as well. Again, I get that down to half. And what I would do with this, at this level, I would have one photo from each client on there. Why? Because if I'm looking at this, somebody trying to choose a photographer to do my headshots, and I would go and think, right, okay, to get 33 images on there, he's had to use, in some cases, 6 images from the same person. That tells me that he hasn't had a whole load of clients. So do one from each person. Then, if you want to show more from that person, have that photo or have a link underneath it to go to see other images of this actor. Now, bear in mind, if you, as I say, if you go to Spotlight and what they're looking for in terms of an actor's headshot, they're looking for a selection of about 6 images. They're looking for a little bit of variety. That variety, you can have 1 or 2, or maybe 1 or so with a different expression on there. So you get away with maybe 1 with the tongue pulling in a set, but probably not. That idea of the smile versus the neutral expression, you see there, those 2 images are practically identical, so you don't need both of them on there with that. If you were setting up an example set of headshots for a client, that's what you want to aim for on the links below. So what should you have in a set for an actor? You want the neutral expression, maybe one straight on, maybe an angled view. Listening to videos about what casting directors are looking for, because remember, they are the people who are going to use these at the end of the day. I heard one casting director say that she actually prefers outdoor shots of actors. There's not a single outdoor shot in your portfolio. Until very recently in the UK, I know this because I've had to do this myself, there were certain sites which only accepted black and white images of actors. So it's quite common that in an actor's portfolio there would be or should be a mix of colour and black and white. You haven't got any black and white images on here, so you need that mix in there with it. Let's have a look at the female headshots. And yeah, again, same sort of rules apply. It's interesting you've got one very large image at the bottom. Now, this image would really, really annoy a casting director. And if an actor, oh, go back, I'll pause that. If an actor knew what casting directors are looking for, that would potentially put them off coming to you. That has been photoshopped skin softening on there. It's a really good job at skin softening. You've done a really good job with the complexion on that, but the casting director would completely ignore the actor if that was the image that they were shown, because that's not a true representation. So if you are going to show images on an actor's portfolio, or on an actor's headshot site that have been retouched like this, you need to have it in a section to say something. Whilst you're having your headshots done, and if you say that in before your blurb that they're not looking for retouched images, they're looking for accurate images, you can then say, well, if you want, I can do you some retouched ones as well. And here's a gallery of retouched images, but separate it away from what the actors are looking for, because this is a very specific niche that you're aiming for, and you really need to get into the mindset not of the actors but of the casting directors. Those are the people that you need to understand. So who is the site aimed at? The site is aimed at actors. Your end product is aimed at casting directors. So make that very clear and make sure that what you are presenting is going to be exactly what a casting director is looking for. And couch your website in those terms so that the actor coming to it says, yeah, this person knows what the casting director is looking for, and they're going to help bring that out so that I can get this work. Because that's what they want, ultimately. Now, if you want to do more than just actors' headshots, because remember here, your home page, your thing is you're just talking about actors' headshots. If you're talking about then business headshots as well, now that's different. Business headshots are going to want a completely different take on there. So maybe you have a section saying actors headshots here, business headshots here, model portfolio here, so you bring them together. They might be all under the same website, but they have their own theme to them so that the requirements are different. But just be aware, actors headshots is a very, very specific niche, and you really need to understand what the casting director is looking for in an actor's headshot. So I hope that helps. Again, just to say in the portfolio, the female headshots, there were no black and white, no outdoor ones in there with it. Be careful about ones cropping the hair off as well, and very tight ones in. I think you just need a little bit more space so that the director can feel they've got the feel of the real person on it, because that's what they're looking for. If you want, have a look at what the requirements are on Spotlight. There's some really interesting videos and helpful things on there. They're directed at actors, but it's really helpful for the photographers who are doing the work. And they're telling actors, this is what you need to look for when you are booking a photographer for doing your headshots. So go have a look at that. Right, okay, let's head back over to where we were on here, and I'm going to have a look at, oh, right, before I do, I just want to have a look in chat what's been going on in there while I've been waffling. And I've seriously overrun tonight, folks. Really sorry on this, on there. Yeah, nothing new in the chat. Right, okay, let's do the feedback on the Facebook images before I look at the final website. So, Lightroom and Facebook images, there's 30 of them, but I'm going to go very quickly through here tonight on these. I'll do it on here. Right, John, I think most of the feedback was given in the Facebook group on this. They're a bit overexposed and they are definitely soft. Have a look at my video on how to photograph fireworks. If you scroll through the videos on my YouTube channel, focus on infinity with it. A pre-focus, manual focusing. I suspect what's happened here, you're on autofocus and the camera's just not managed to lock focus on there with that. This one's overexposed. Again, check your histograms at the end of your shot, and if necessary, adjust. You need to be in manual mode to really do fireworks on there. So look at the video, I think is the best thing I can say. Now, you should know by now what I'm going to say on this one. Get your verticals straight. I say it for a lot of people on here. The other problem with this is the sky is just completely blown out on there. I suspect the detail might have been in the original, but yeah, I say it each week to you, John, make sure you post your best images. You can do better than that. Sonia, great shot. I think we saw it on your website, actually. I love this one. The antenna in focus, the face in focus on there, and the blurred background. It works really well on that. Gary, nice shot with the blurred hand or the double exposure on there. And it's great that you managed to do it in camera as well. Long exposure, holding the hand there and then quickly moving it out of the way so that we don't get the motion of it. Nice choice of book to be pointing at as well. The whole thing works. The only thing I wasn't so sure on is the background. It's a bit too similar to the book, and the book's a little bit disappearing into the background on it. I'd prefer a cleaner background, to be honest, on there, because we've got these lines which are off at an angle with it. Presume a drone shot, Richard, on there. Great shot, great ship. I want to get back on the ship. So yeah, lovely shot, well done on there. Can't fault it on anything. I might be tempted to just remove the cloud on there because it almost looks like something coming out of the ship or hovering over the ship because you've got that. And is it a cloud in the sky or is it coming from there? It's a bit ambiguous, so I would probably just clone that out. Ruskin, I say this every time, I really need to see your images emailed to me. You've got some great shots, but I can't tell from this resolution to be able to give you the information that will help improve. I think this one needs just a little bit more exposure. Can you see on the histogram here that it's a bit low? I think it just needs to come up a little bit, maybe just bring the blacks down and the contrast up slightly. I would go with something like that, a little bit more contrasty in the conversion. Ovind, I like this pair of images of the walkway, and I think I prefer the long one. I'd have been tempted to try and get it coming in from the corner. From over here, so that just a slight change of position, so it looked like the path's coming in. If you imagine a line going sort of along this edge, coming in sort of along there, and that edge coming in more or less where maybe along here, I think that might work a little bit better. So it's just a case of positioning yourself slightly to one side and rotating the camera slightly just to do that, rather than having it straight in the middle, I think, for that. But yeah, it's a nice shot. Again, I think you can afford just to bring the exposure up a little on there. Maybe just protect the highlights a fraction with it. But yeah, nice shot. Tim, I know it was shown what this looked like corrected. I'm just going to show you how to preserve the moon in there. It's really, really easy. I want the moon to be, let's say, here. So I just click there and then I say, right, okay, let's sample that from there. So I've done that. I've got two moons now, but when I do a crop and say that's my horizon on there, oh, I didn't quite get it in the right place, but I'm going to have to redo that. But you can see the idea. I can get the moon in the shot. I just need to choose a different place for it. If I work out exactly where that is, I could have ended up with it in the corner as well. But it is easy to do it that sort of way on there. But nice shot, nice idea. Love the sun on there. I do wonder about correcting that a little bit and bringing that down. No, I don't know. No, I think I'm just going to undo my corrections on there. No, I think that works as it is without me messing around with it. Richard, lovely shot. That's really all I can say on there. Nice reflections with it, nicely framed. Another great shot, very slightly underexposed. I'd be just trying to bring it up slightly on there. Again, great composition, like the way it leads off, thirds lines on there. Ticks all the boxes, well done. John, a little bit underexposed on this one, but great shot. And it's absolutely tack sharp on the dragonfly. But that dragonfly's been in the wars, hasn't it? Something's had to go at one of its wings there and taken a bite out of that one. Poor thing. But really good shot. And also nice that your depth of field is sufficient for the flower as well. So really well done on that. Of course, it's from Facebook, so I haven't got any shooting data. So that's the information on there, which means I've probably got time just to do right. Evelyn said, thanks for the feedback. Let's see what you change on there. Actually sent the original. Right, okay. I didn't get it. I will check the spam folder on that. I normally do check my spam folder, but appear to have missed that this time on that. Right, okay, I've got now one final site to go through, which is Gary Platt's. Sorry to make you wait so long, Gary, on this. So let me go over to the website, your website, and there we go. Right, so Gary Platt, right, photography. So who's it for? Who's it aimed at? Doesn't say at the top, but we've got different areas. I like that. It's photo heavy. You're a photographer, that's great on there. So my first thought is let's go to the About page. Love the fact you've got a photo of yourself on there and the write-up. Talking about your history. And right. Great, you've got the information about what the images can and can't be used for on there. And it says, right, just contact me on that. So, right, contact. Have we got a contact page? We have indeed got a contact page with their name, email address for the reply, subject message. Yep, that's all we need on there. What I would do, though, is on that just contact me, put the link through to the contact page. Make life easy for people on there. Right, and so I spotted it on here about you like to read people's comments. Yeah, I really love to hear from you and read your comments and hear your opinions. Right, okay, let's go find some photos and give you my opinions then. So, Dance, let's start. Right, this is the first thing. This is a personal comment. I don't like the fact that the image disappears when I mouse over it. I know that that just highlights the name. I know this is probably a theme thing rather than a choice for yourself. But what would be really nice would be when you mouse over it, instead of losing the image altogether, that it goes to a color, it goes to a black and white image or something along those lines. That would work quite nicely on there rather than it disappearing. It just feels a little bit unsettling, as though I'm mousing over something and you're taking it away from me. But anyway, let's have a look and see what this has to say. So right, it's collection of images. So scroll down. Right, okay. There's two things I would do here. I'd like to see a little bit of an intro about your dance photography. on this page, maybe just a couple of sentences at the top, and possibly that little thing about, if you want to use these images, please see, and link through to that statement that you got on the other page, just so that it's clear, because somebody coming into your website here might immediately go, oh, Dan's, does he say anything about, no, it doesn't say I can't use them, I'll download them, without ever looking at the contact page or the about page to find that statement about Creative Commons on there. So I put something on the main page with that. Right, in terms of number of images on the page, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, it's about right. I think you could possibly look at losing, taking it down by a couple. I tend to think for this sort of portfolio where it's on a website of just your images, your best 15. Why 15? If you're doing an ARPS or that sort of level of panel, it's 15 images. So that's a good representation on there. And remember, you would be judged by your worst image on there. I'm not saying which is the worst image because I find it really hard with that. It's a good selection on there. So let's just have a look at some of the others and see what we've got in there. Architecture and features. Again, nice. Right, this menu being at the bottom's a little weird. Again, if there was any way to put that menu across the top that you're going to, it's sticky, that would help people rather than sort of scrolling down all the time. The mannequins one, I want to just comment on this one. I love the page. It's the right number of images on the page, but you have got a superb YouTube video on your channel using all the images here. Why not just link it in at the bottom? Maybe a few words about the video, and say, if you like these images, why not take a look at the video that I created using them and put that on the page. I'm just going through a few of these just to see number wise. Again, they're sort of fine, right sort of numbers. The garden ones are a little short in number. Right, I hadn't realised this, that you have to click on it to get the detail of what you're looking at and then mouse over it. Again, I suspect that's to do with the theme, the website theme on there. It might be helpful to have that in the little intro on the page as a way of people getting to know what the images are. I like that it's, in some ways, I like that it's just that set of images, letting the image speak for itself. But another part of me, though, is I'd like to know what these images are. But I hadn't realised when I was preparing this that you could actually do that. I'd only just discovered that live on the live stream. So those are the main things. I do like that it's really simple, the website on there. I'd like to see a little bit more on that homepage about what the purpose of it is and who it's aimed at. And I get the impression it's just your, it's basically your portfolio to show off your images. Now, you wouldn't use the term show off, but you get the idea. So somebody coming in here just knows what it is. It might just be, welcome to my portfolio, please have a look round and let me know what you think. But that's the phrase, isn't it? Let me know what you think. That's what you said in your about. You want to hear their comments. there's no way of actually posting a comment on these images. I don't know whether there's any way the theme, the website theme that you're using, I suspect it's Zenfolio behind it, or SmugMug, something like that. And if it is, I believe there should be a way to enable comments. But if that's part of the aim of what you've stated, there should be a way for people to comment on an individual photo, because it's all very well saying, I want feedback. Now, if I want to do it, yes, I can go to contact, but then I can't relate it back to a particular image to give you that feedback that you've asked for in your about on there. So those are my thoughts on it. It's nice and easy. Like the quote, actually, doubt is brother demon to despair. The demons, they doubt with us, those who dare not dare. It's one of those to try and get my head round on there. But yeah, it's a great, simple website, and the fact that it's understated works well. And I do like the fact that all three of you have gone with websites which are white background. I think that's great. There is an argument for grey background, mid-grey, for photography websites. I went with white on mine. I like the cleanness of that. I don't like the black. I know sort of dark mode is very much in vogue these days, but I try to avoid it myself with it, because for dyslexics like myself, it can be quite hard reading white text on a black background. So I think it's the right choice on there. Right, okay, that's my review done on there. Let's get back, have a quick look at the what's going on in the comments, which means I need to find a different page on here so I can see them. Oh, right, okay, yeah. Yeah, no, nothing new on there. So back over to here, which just leaves me the member photo of the week to reveal. And this week's member photo of the week is, I've chosen this one by Richard, actually. I just thought it would make a great banner. It's simple, striking on there, and that's what it's going to look like as the banner image. I've flipped it, Richard, sorry, and it will crop in a particular way on the computer as well, so that's why it's in the particular format as it is. So thank you for that, Richard. I'll change the image very shortly, and please submit to the Facebook group, folks, if you want your image to be the image of the week next week. Right, nothing new in the live chat on there. So next Sunday, what we're doing next Sunday, I'm going to talk a little bit about back button focusing, because it's something that comes up every so often, and I particularly want to mention it because I did a survey on my YouTube channel about what types of camera people are using, and a lot of people are now on mirrorless, and the mirrorless cameras have eye detection focusing as well as single point focusing and the usual. And so that affects how you set up back button focusing for those who've got cameras like mine, the R5. So I want to just cover this whole thing about back button focusing, about why to do it, when to do it, in other words, when to switch to it, and the sort of slightly more advanced ways of doing it, which is what I've got set up on my camera. So that's what my main topic of conversation. It's not going to be a long talk on that. There's not really that much to say on it. So I am going to do an affinity tutorial in there as well. It'll be the one left over from today, which I couldn't do, all about layers. So if you've got images you want feedback on, feedback@ians-studio.co.uk, and post images to the Facebook group. So thanks for watching. Sorry it's been a long one. I will try and get it down next week. And until next week, keep making great photos, and I'll see you next time. Bye.